The frequency of healing supports our intrinsic ability to restore our health and wholeness by consciously using the information that comes to us through our senses and harmonizing everything accordingly. And man, could we use some healing right now. This card actually came out on its side when I was doing the pre-shuffle for this. So this is something that's in process right now. And the things that come to mind when we think about healing might at first seem pleasant, or the expectation might be that they're pleasant, but there's so many times when they aren't. And that idea of harmonizing, it's an interesting concept when you think of it as the like becoming one with the nature of things. And that doesn't necessarily mean being passive or putting our feet up or drinking tea, and sometimes it does. So we'll start getting some cards and see if we can drill down a little bit into more details on what we're healing, because I know collectively what is likely on everybody's minds right now, because I know it's on mine. I am still dealing with a little bit of the dissociative fogginess from being triggered. And I saw something on Threads that really articulated well how I'm feeling. And it said, today felt like the second tower. And I'm recording this the day after the nurse was murdered in broad daylight on video. We got so many videos, and then we were lied to, just like point blank lied to by officials. And it's really a difficult reckoning right now. And I don't think I have anything to say that hasn't already been said. At this point, I feel like I'm the one doing the strongly worded tweet. Like I see so many elected officials doing, but I don't really know what the answer is. So it's a lot right now. So we'll talk about some healing. Maybe what we can try to cool off the nervous system a little bit. Lust. Okay. Venus in Aries. Wasn't quite expecting that. Cover her up. And Venus is actually in Aquarius right now with a lot of other planets. So we've got Venus, the Sun, Mercury, Pluto, and Mars are all going to be in Aquarius at the same time. But I'm not necessarily getting that this is lust literally. It could be, absolutely. There might be some redirection in how those coping mechanisms are expressing themselves. Like when you're under high stress, you kind of lean on vices right now. So you might be in a push-pull dance as to whether or not you may be reverting to old habits or trying to pull forward away from those habits. So let's get another card. And, want to mind that temper too, because the other thing that just came to mind was like bloodlust. So be careful not only of that maybe in yourself, but in others as well. We've got convention, Venus in Capricorn, empathy in reverse, Moon in Pisces, and versatility, Sun in Gemini. So, the establishment lacking empathy and a need to respond to that with versatility. It's very Aquarian. As when I set out to do this reading, I just wanted to dig into what do we need to know for Aquarius season, because we've got all that, like, celestial things going on. Let's see. Tell me more about convention. What do we need to know about that? And this expression here is always like, I don't know, the little baby or the little kid. It's always given me like, I'm better than you. Like looking down your nose at something. And I mean, that is like a plantation house, you know, in the artwork. So it is kind of giving those macro themes that are kind of staring in the face right now. 3 of elixirs. This is the dark crystal tarot. So 3 of cups. Celebration. Ugh. I don't like this vibe. This is... the difficulty that... one of the many difficulties I know I'm having seeing is how many people on the other side of the aisle celebrate this kind of thing. Like the Don't Tread on Me crowd has complete blinders on that our rights are being infringed on in front of our eyes. Like the crowd that was all up in arms about like vaccine cards are fascism and whatnot. What about murder? Where do you stand on that, huh? Apparently, like, nowhere to be found. Just cheering it on. And the lack of empathy is what is so disturbing. Because you know, if this happened to somebody they gave an ish about, they'd be up in arms about it. You know, I would never wish anything to happen to them, anybody they care about, so anybody learns a lesson. I've seen videos like that, though. Like, I think it was when there was major flooding or fires or something. There was a woman who said something like, have you tried not being poor? Or whatever, in regards to an area that was flooding. Like, people couldn't leave and whatnot. And then her area, I think in Texas, got hit. And now she was the one needing help and, you know, crying and wailing and whatnot. Because it's a real emergency. And there's just nothing satisfying about those I told you so's, because this perpetuation of suffering, what gets accomplished by that? Nothing. Just more suffering. Like, we have enough. The suffering will occur naturally. We don't need to help the process along. We've got the World in reverse, so a cycle not completing. It doesn't feel quite right. Page of Stones or Page of Swords, and Ace of Stones in reverse, so a lack of clarity. And then this is the Student, or sometimes a spy card, like somebody collecting information. So that could even be like an onlooker, you know, filming and whatnot, us getting those multiple angles. But it's like the cycle of propaganda that won't end. It's like, how... I guess it's new now that we have social media, the mass like availability of raw footage at civilian fingertips. Like, we don't have to rely on journalists and such to be on the ground with cameras, because everybody has one in their pocket now, which would be different than yesteryear. So I don't know if we are just early in the process, like, of those cognitive biases breaking, because they're so deeply ingrained in one's psyche that not only does it take a lot of self-awareness and willingness to put in the work to break down that conditioning, but it can be a really distressing process to go through, to wake up to the fact that the things that you believed are not true. And there's still a lot of, I would say, the dominant demographic groups that the perception fallacy hasn't quite reached them yet. That they, as an individual, are not an exception to this violence. Violence comes to your door when it comes to your door. Privilege is just a lesser likelihood of it coming to a door, but it's not a fence. It's not a lock. It will get there when it gets there. So maybe we need some versatility in the tools of today. You know, Aquarius is the sign of the technologist. So how can we use that technology to our advantage to heal these things, to protect the lives of our neighbors? Because it's certainly being used in the opposite way. I'm seeing a lot of concerning headlines about different technologies that ICE has, and I saw some unverified stuff about like a more advanced camera that they're using, and I am not a lawyer, but probably one of the things that worries me the most are these contracts with tech companies, that tech companies aren't subject to the same like Fourth Amendment stuff as like the government would be. And so like the loopholes that could be created by, you know, it's not the government entity itself violating your Fourth Amendment rights. You, as a user, are hitting the I agree button on whatever app download, and then data's being purchased. Like, that's the runaround. And I haven't looked very far into that, but it's really concerning to me. Over here on the left, being kind of drawn to the dice roll that I did, the Sun, Sagittarius, and third house, which I was having a hard time noodling on. So changing the way we illuminate what we learn about social activities and interests. Because I can't remember, I don't know if it's confirmation bias is what makes people double down, like when they're presented with fact and they're like, no, that's not real. Like video right in front of their face. And because it challenges a core belief, there's like an absolute refusal to even acknowledge that that exists. So is there an illusion that we need to heal? Because I think tomorrow, January 26th, Neptune moves into 0° Aries out of Pisces. That's a big change. So is there an illusion that needs healing? I would argue yes, but acquisition, Sun in Taurus, and enthusiasm, Sun in Sagittarius. Speak of the devil. And both are in reverse. They got their like fancy pants aristocrats here on the left, but also the two snakes. So Caduceus, healing. And then enthusiasm and some polarity here between the sun and the moon, opposites. And since the sun is in Aquarius right now, that would mean that Leo is in the shadow. So pride and ego, even fame or infamy. And enthusiasm would be hard to maintain right now with everything going on. I feel like I need one more. I don't quite have a grasp on that. Acquisition and enthusiasm. These are the illusions? I mean, maybe that enthusiasm is still burning right now, but it's hard to find fuel for it with everything going on. That doesn't mean the fire's gone out, though. And indecision, Venus in Libra in reverse. So decisiveness. And a lot of Venus cards. And what was the meaning for Venus? Friendship first, freedom in space, detached yet loyal. I think it's the more Aquarian nature that would get attached to an idea as opposed to a person. And the idea is going to be the thing that would be long-lasting as opposed to attaching any sort of enthusiasm, decision towards an individual. That seems like a big difference between the two sides of the aisle. Like, of course, there's still ideals that are feeding actions and such. But maybe that's the mindset that we need to get around, is ensuring that we're looking at our ideals as a whole rather than getting caught up in the individuals who have done harm, which absolutely, like, they need to be brought to justice, don't get me wrong. But there's still like an idea that emboldened them, that set of ideals, that mindset will still exist without that individual. So starting to look at things from a larger view. So there could be some, like, getting too focused on like a narrow view where the problems, like, they really are that big. We need to keep looking at the big picture, not lose sight of that, while also addressing things on the micro level, which, goodness gracious, so tiring. It's a lot to manage just mentally. So that could be the illusion. All this mental chatter of there's so much going on the macro level and the micro level, and gotta go to work, gotta circle back on those emails, and absolutely no one is even acknowledging what is going on. It just doesn't feel real. It's like a dissociative fugue state. You're switching between worlds, you know, when you clock in and clock out. And I absolutely appreciate compartmentalization, but also, and this isn't ignorable anymore. I don't know. How are we supposed to keep functioning by staying in illusion? That kind of seems like the only way to keep functioning business as normal, which, should we continue to function that way? Because that's how we got here. I don't know. Temperance in reverse, so no. Six of shards, Six of wands in reverse. It's not looking good. Emperor in reverse, and the Lovers in reverse. Wow, that's not a great hand. So impatience, defeat, the false ruler, and like division is what I'm getting from the Lovers in reverse. I don't think this is an illusion, though. Or the illusion... Use your discernment when I say this. The illusion might be that this can be resolved with temperance. That if we go into this failing to acknowledge the true travesty that it is, and how we got here, and how much is being got away with at the top, because there's not, as crummy as this is to say, this isn't the only thing going on. There's still the Epstein files. There's still the whatever this weirdness is with Greenland. And when was the last time you heard about Venezuela or Iran? I understand their internet is out right now, but oh my God, there are so many things going on. And I feel like this perpetuation of business as usual is what keeps it going. Now there's a lot to consider there, because we all need income to pay rent, and things got to function, and there's a lot of like important jobs that people are doing that need to continue happening. But how do you interrupt this cycle of strongly worded tweets? And we can clearly see things escalating on the ground. And these false equivalencies of, like, what I was saying about the vaccine cards, like, there are people on the other side of the aisle that earnestly believe vaccine cards equate fascism in the way the events of yesterday do. And that's not necessarily, like, not everybody is a wounded lost lamb that can find their way back. These might just be their earnest beliefs. And that's an illusion that has to come down. I struggled with that for a really long time. I thought people on the other side of the aisle, at their core, thought like me, but had been misguided. That's not always true. There are some, yes. And if they are, they're going to have to find their way back of their own accord. And I think it's up to us, whoever wants to be that us, to use our discernment and open the door and allow people to learn from their mistakes if we're going to see change. Not everybody is being earnest and honest. Of course, people will, defect to the other side. Like, I've seen it happen if they're going through, like, a legal case or something. Like, suddenly they found Jesus. No, you didn't. You knew where he was the whole time, and you still did this. But there's just a lot of difficult things, I think, coming to light. So maybe that's what that illusion is referring to. Sometimes people really do decide to be on the side of the oppressor. And sometimes that's people you care about. That's one of those situations where it's just, you know what? We have different values. I don't think we can associate. But on the right here, so we talked about the illusion. This is just that big, uncomfortable macro view. What's unseen? That's what I want to know. Principle. Yeah, principles do seem kind of unseen right now. Jupiter and Sagittarius. And that is kind of like a city gates. We've got the Pope and another sun and moon. Is that a Pope hat or a bishop hat? Maybe a bishop hat. So principles are unseen. What principle? Quarrel in reverse. Mars in Cancer. Criticism in reverse. Mars in Virgo. And assertion. Sun in Aries. So these are the principles that are unseen. So quarrel, like a non-conflict, non-confrontation. I'm not taking these as a good thing, though. So, hang on. Like on the surface, it seems like it might be, or at least is how it got presented to me throughout my life. These are desirable traits, that you're non-confrontational, that you don't criticize, and that you're passive. You don't assert yourself. And I'd always noticed, like, the people praising these types of traits were ones who were trying to do something wrong. Like, if it's like an employer or something like that, like, get away with something that's not necessarily illegal, but it's kind of on the line, and it gets into that he said, she said, whatnot. It's that kind of like gaslighty stuff that, you know, you get praised for being amenable and not rocking the boat. But rocking the boat is what needs to happen. Not rocking the boat is how we got here, how we, like, smooth sailed straight into the bay of fascism. And just, I can sense the, like, PR stuff, like the kind of thing you would hear in an office when they're breaking it to the whole team that, oh, sorry, no raises after we just praised you for doing all this work and like record breaking numbers and whatnot. And by the way, don't look at the financial reporting for the uppers because they're going to get money. You're not. And there are a lot of like labels and criticisms that'll be lobbed at the person who is confrontational, who does criticize things that are wrong. And the part that's not appreciated is someone's wrongdoing being found out. And that really gets into the question, the narrator. Like, who does this narrative benefit of you not being confrontational, you not criticizing, you not asserting yourself? Why is that desirable? Who benefits from that? Someone trying to maintain power and control. So tell me more about these principles that cannot be seen. And I just gotta, like, do these need to be hidden in you? Like, that's the versatility that's being asked for here. In order to successfully heal something difficult, these qualities can exist in you, need to exist in you, but quietly. Like, just due to the nature of things, like harmonizing. What is that, 7? 7 of Cups, illusions. Yeah. So it's not that you're not doing these things. Or the advice is not to not do these things. How many double negatives can I use? It's to hide them. Why? Like, I could see, if you're in a imbalanced power situation and you have to protect yourself, like, hide these qualities, to not escalate a situation, something like that. Because, I mean, what is it? This is a very expensive solution. Don't get me wrong. Just saying, maybe there are some people out there that can figure this out, but those recording glasses, people are figuring out how to use those to record women without it being known, without like the little light being seen. How do we do that to hold people accountable? Rather than like, see all these technologies that are being used to harm people, how can we turn that on its head and use them for the greater good? Maybe that's just the Machiavellian in me. But if they are doing this in plain as day, like being lied to, anything that rides the line of legality, why can't we use those tools too? Because then there are arguments for like, well, if you're holding me accountable, now I have a legal argument to hold that person accountable. Like, you just gave it to me. So it's kind of an interesting stalemate. 5 of Swords, yeah, a conflict. But that's usually after the conflict has ended, like people are walking away. So creating an illusion that the conflict is over, but still operating by those principles. So using your Mission Impossible skills. That's too many. But what areas of your life can that be used in? You know, I mean, there are a lot of domestic violence survivors that have done things just like this, that get themselves out of really, really sticky situations, and then have to go on and fight court battles, you know? So using tools in an innovative way to create an illusion around this, like, perception that, like, let people underestimate you. There's a certain advantage to that, to letting their ego take over. Bearing in mind safety and all that, of course. Because an ego can become quite violent quite fast. What else about? Nope. Thought about it. What else about these principles? Six of Gems. Six of Pentacles. Equal give and take. Again, take that with a grain of salt. Definitely not advocating for necessarily giving it as good as you got it. I'm also not advocating for you letting things slide, you know. I have a sign on the backsplash of my altar. It says, "Do no harm, but take no ish." And sometimes that can be an interesting line to ride. So what's the advice here? What is our advice on this complicated things that we're healing? We're looking at the unfortunate picture of the macrosphere, letting illusions come down that we can solve this with temperance. We need a more active approach that might require some cunning. So what's the advice? I'm just going to take that bottom. Well, I'll take the bottom three. Defense, Mars in Taurus in reverse. Control, Jupiter in Capricorn. And protection, Moon in Aries in reverse. That's interesting. The defense and the protection being in reverse kind of... It's like maintaining control, but dropping the defenses? That's interesting. So control, but not being defensive, not... Or just taking a big risk, really. A calculated risk, but a big risk nonetheless. Oh, oh, Death in reverse. That plopped out right at the bottom. Resisting change? Oh, This could be looking at whomever involved, whatever situation, whatever level this is playing out for you, how their control, like their ego, is become unbalanced. Like they believe in their own individual ability to control a situation so much that they've left themselves undefended and unprotected. And that's not a change they want to see. Like realizing, oh, what is that? Nemesis and Agamemnon. When authority became entitlement, like he was so confident in his control that he didn't realize the call was coming from inside the house. I actually have the book right here. I think this is his wife. I haven't started this yet. Clytemnestra? Pretty sure that's his wife. But this, like, that book is from her perspective. It's about her. And the way I've heard that story before is more about Nemesis's perspective. And how she did not halt the sacrifice of his daughter, and then later it was kind of like letting the rage of his wife cook over the years until the moment was right, like the chess pieces had been moved into the right place over the war. I can't remember. I think he sacrificed his daughter to sail unobstructed to Sparta? Was it to Troy? Something like that? So an egotistical person involved, really believing they have so much control they don't need to, like, watch their back, you know? And metaphorically speaking. But when you have conflicts with people, if you can't come to some sort of agreement, some sort of, oh, what word am I looking for? I don't know. But something agreeable, then it becomes adversarial. And you're being put into a situation where there is going to be a winner and a loser. So tell me more about this change. Queen of Gems. In reverse. I mean, that's like losing all your materials. Losing your health, losing your finances, losing your kingdom. That could be the healing, though. The corrupt person being taken out of power. And it's not going to be an appreciated healing, because there are going to be loyalists. Like what I was talking about earlier, the doubling down of, despite seeing fact and whatnot right in front of your face, people still won't believe things that challenge their core values, or their core perceptions, or whatever. That doesn't mean it doesn't need to be healed, though. Like, think of if you've ever had, like, I don't know, a bone reset or something. Do you think that the patient is happy about that? No. You know, and I haven't had that experience, but I have been burnt really badly. And like getting that cleaned out regularly and whatnot. I wasn't happy about that. But that, like, the debrising and whatnot, like that, it had to happen for the healing and everything. Not fun. Not great. Oh, nope. Sometimes the necessary healing can be the most painful part. Even if, like, you've ever gotten a large tattoo or something, like after you get the coloring done or shading done, how itchy it is. We've got the Hermit here, and in reverse. So, I mean, that's like driving the, whoever this egotistical person in control was, into isolation. And I am not one to advocate for bullying in any sort of fashion. And we've lost the art of healthy shame. Like, there's a lot of, I think, black and white thinking that I hear around shame, that just shame is bad. Toxic shame is bad. Not even bad, it's unhealthy. It eats away at you like anything else that's out of balance. But there is such a thing as healthy shame. Like when you've done something wrong and you feel shame about it, that's healthy. That's the normal thing. Like, I don't know if I really wanted to use the word normal there, but I think you get what I mean. The type of things that I see officials saying would have gotten them canned yet in yesteryear. Like the things that officials are putting out from their chest, from their verified account. There's just a point in time that they would have not retained their employment. And I miss those days. I miss those days where canceling people meant something. When it wasn't just this social threat of like, you better not be different, because if you're different, we'll cancel you. Like, there's a reason that people get exiled and such, excommunicado, from groups. And some of those situations are warranted. Unfortunately, what we see happening a lot is it happens to the truth teller. The truth teller is who gets looked at as the villain first. They're guilty until proven innocent, which sucks. But it's a really effective tool to keep people from speaking up. So, all in all, do the uncomfortable thing when it comes to healing. You know, if there is pure intention in your heart and you're not out to hurt anybody, sometimes speaking up is going to cause pain. That's a byproduct of the truth, and that doesn't mean the truth is not to be said. It might just mean we have to take an innovative Aquarian approach to the truth. So, my 2 cents. I hope you are all staying as sane as you can right now. Try and take care of yourselves. You know, I was going to do this reading yesterday, but I needed a day to ground and not get too far dissociated. So I actually had a nice comfort food day. Spent the day cooking. You know, since doing the Mediterranean diet, comfort foods look quite a bit different now. Actually, I'll take all three. Why not? So, holding off on the butter and cream and a lot of tomato-based stuff. Really has that comfort food feeling. We've got archery as an activity. So, speaking of grounding, something to get in your body. And archery, that's pretty easy to jump right into. You're not going to be very good at it at first, probably. But they've got all that like rental gear and whatnot at those ranges. It's a good shoulder workout. And it's just fun. And a couple of songs here. We've got In the Air Tonight by In This Moment. It's a great cover. And Punk Rock Song by Bad Religion. Can't recommend metal and punk rock enough right now. Both the, you know, the counterculture tunes and whatnot, and another means to really get in your body. And if you have space to set up like a little hay bale and a target or something, you might even be able to do archery on your own property while blaring music, you know, while really making a whole thing of it. And maybe you can invite some friends over, you know, or even, what is that called? LARPing? Some of that, you know, something to get out a little bit, get social. I think there are even like clubs and such that you could join. You know, maybe you need a place to go where nobody knows your name to just like check out and just be, you know. So whatever helps you maintain your sanity during this time, during all these big celestial transits in Aquarius, I recommend that. So overall, I hope this helps. I hope this resonates, and if it doesn't, I hope the next one does. Thank you so much.